And I will call this meeting to order. Lisa, will you please call the roll?
Anne Marie Knorr.
Present.
Ben Owens.
Present by phone.
Tori Anderson.
Present.
Joshua Judd. Patty Coutray.
Present.
Thank you, Lisa. We will now move on to item 1C. We will have Mr. Lazar, in honor of his birthday, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Happy birthday, Principal Lazar. Thank you for leading us in the pledge. We are now on item 1D, adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, I have a question.
Oh, okay.
Can I ask to have 8, H, and I pulled from consent? I just have 2 questions, just clarifying. They're just...
Sure. So you want to make a motion?
No, I'll amend mine
Okay.
since I made the motion. I'll amend my motion to approve the adoption of the agenda with moving items 8H and 8I to the first action items.
Thank you.
No problem.
And I will second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Lisa, will you please call the vote?
Patty Coutray.
Aye.
Ben Owens.
Aye.
Tori Anderson.
Aye.
Anne Marie Knorr.
Aye. By your vote of 4-0, you have approved the agenda, moving 8H and 8I to the action items. We are now on item 2, called the public. But unfortunately, no one wants to talk tonight. So we'll move on to item 3, the superintendent's report. Dr. Lopman, take it away.
Thank you, President Knorr. In November, we have 2 recognition weeks to celebrate. This week is National School Psychology Awareness Week, and next week is American Education Week. To recognize and thank our employees for the outstanding job they do, psychologists will receive a small gift as a token of our appreciation for their commitment to our students. And next week, every other employee will receive a special treat for doing their part to ensure every child receives a quality education. And I'm proud to work alongside every one of them. In honor of Native American Heritage Month, the students from Maricopa High School's Amarant Club will be celebrating their traditions, history, and culture beginning on Monday, November 18th. During all 3 lunch periods, our high school community will learn from and enjoy traditional dances, games, and awareness activities. There will also be a special presentation on the history of the Gila River Indian community. On Saturday, November 2nd, the Maricopa High School Marching Rams finished their regular season by winning the AZMBA Yonker Rough Rider Roundup in Buckeye. They swept the Caption Awards, winning awards for Outstanding Auxiliary, that's the color guard, Outstanding Percussion, Outstanding Music, Outstanding General Effect, and Outstanding Visual. And on November 10th, the Marching Rams finished their season strong by placing in the top 10 at the In the Cards inaugural AZMBA Grand Championships. The Marching Rams have truly had the best season in the history of the program. This was acknowledged by one of the judges at the Grand Championships, who stated, "This year's edition of the Maricopa Marching Band may be one of the strongest group of ambassadors to date. This year's band has had outstanding color guard performances and shown dramatic improvement in music performance and percussion performance. Congratulations on an outstanding season." Seems to be the word of the moment for the Marching Rams. And another congratulations is in order, this time for our very own Maricopa Unified School District Governing Board. Because of their commitment to the professional development, the entire board is being recognized for earning the Total Boardsmanship Award at the upcoming ASBA-ASA Annual Conference. The MUSD Governing Board will be recognized on Thursday, December 19th at the annual awards breakfast held in conjunction with the annual conference. We're so proud of each of you and your commitment to and leadership in the Maricopa Unified School District, an award well deserved. More great news. Last week, we learned that Maricopa Wells Middle School math teacher Walker Kyle was selected to receive a $5,000 grant from the Fiesta Bowl Charities Wishes for Teachers program. Mr. Kyle plans to use the grant to purchase technology to support math instruction in his classroom. In addition to the financial grant, Mr. Kyle will be recognized on field at the Cheez-It Bowl at at the Cheez-It Bowl at Chase Field on Friday, December 27th, and at the Desert Financial Fiesta Bowl Parade on Saturday, December 28th. Way to go, Mr. Kyle. On Friday, November 8th, Maricopa Unified School District hosted its second annual Veterans Day breakfast. More than 60 employees and community members attended the event to pay tribute to our nation's veterans and to honor those who have served our country. Thank you to our sponsors at Core Construction for helping make the event possible. Our students played critical roles. Thank you to the Maricopa High School second-year culinary students under the direction of Chef Greg Mann and Hannah Norby, who prepared the delicious breakfast. A special thanks also goes to Maricopa High School senior Ryan Learman, who performed the national anthem, and of course, our Air Force Junior ROTC cadets under the direction of Lieutenant Colonel Alan Kirksey and Master Sergeant Deshaun Gregory, who posted colors and led us in a moving missing man table ceremony. Thank you to all who attended the breakfast. And on behalf of our students and employees, thank you to all who have served or are serving our country. It's important for me to take a moment to acknowledge a tough loss. The bond measure did not pass, but the identified needs have not changed. And it's also important for everyone to remember that even if the bond had passed, the funding would not have been immediately available. Therefore, we are still on schedule to implement a scaled version of that capital plan. The funding from the School Facilities Board poses complex opportunities and challenges. The limitations and requirements associated with SFB funding compel us to make sure we leave no stone unturned as we progress forward. As options become more clear, we will continue to communicate with our stakeholders as we have for the past year. The loss is a tremendous disappointment. It is more clear now than ever before. Our students are counting on us to lead courageously and champion their futures. I want to thank the board and the volunteers for the example they have set for the entire community. Thank you. We have some upcoming events. The Maricopa Unified School District will host its first family luncheon on November 21st from 11:30 to 1 in the Culinary Summit Room at Maricopa High School. Employees from around the district will be invited to join me and members of our leadership team for lunch, where they will receive a report on top happenings in the district, as well as time to ask questions and share feedback on current issues. Mark your calendars. We hope you will join us at our second annual holiday reception on December 11th from 4:30 to 6 p.m. right here in the district office courtyard. We'll have cocoa, cookies, and good cheer, as well as a special student performance. We hope to see you there, and I'll bring the marshmallows. And that looks like it's it for my report. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Lopman. We will now move on to item 4, governing board member reports. And we'll start with Mrs. Cotray.
Thank you and welcome back.
Thanks.
I did attend the Veterans Breakfast. If you didn't see me, I was the one in red in front because I'm always short, so, you know. And then I was also able to attend, this was the first year that they did it, the MHS band did a send-off performance before they went off on their Saturday and Sunday competition, and it was really nice. It was well attended, the weather was perfect, and some of those pictures that you saw I actually got to take. So they've been really gracious on letting me on field and take some pictures of them. Phenomenal phenomenal year for the band. So proud of all the hard work, and they couldn't have done it without the support of the parents, the band boosters, the director, and so just kudos to everybody, and even the bus driver. Mr. Rodney's great. So kudos to them, very happy for them. Of course, we all are kind of sad about the bond, but that doesn't mean that we stop. We still have to look for ways, because like Dr. Lotman said, those needs are still there, and we still need to provide for our students. So I hope that you'll continue to support us as we continue to support them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Cotray. Mrs. Anderson? You're next,
I'm
Mr.
next.
Owens.
Oh, Mr. Owens, you want to go now, or you?
Go ahead, Terry.
Okay. Veterans Day breakfast was great. It was amazing. My uncle was there, and just a lot of people that I hadn't seen in a while, so it was nice to be able to pay tribute to those who have made it capable for us to all be here tonight. So it was amazing breakfast, and it was pretty good. I've had the amazing opportunity to start getting back to some of our own schools after touring schools around the state, and so I met with Mr. Alvarado at Desert Wind Middle School, and certainly impressed with the way that they handle the lunches with all the kids. It was just very good manners, and everybody was respectful in the hallways, and so, you know, for your first year, doing pretty good there, Mr. Alvarado. I'm pretty impressed. My boys certainly would have enjoyed being there at Desert Wind with him. So that was a great tour. Wonderful to see the good things they're doing. I also was able to tour Butterfield Elementary with Mrs. Hildick, and boy, what a peaceful campus. If you have not taken a tour of that campus, I recommend you do. The minute you walk through the doors, it's extremely peaceful. I mean, just a very calming learning environment. And every classroom on that campus has a calming corner. And so, you know, it's just a 4x4 square in the corner, but it's helping teach our students not only how to keep track of their mental health, but how to control their behaviors. So it's, to me, that is such a huge challenge as we become adults. They learn you can't throw temper tantrums anymore, darn it. But I think it's an amazing tool that these children are able to learn in elementary school. So that was, I'm very proud of that. I know Tara Roy has been a part of getting that going, and I certainly hope that the rest of our elementary schools, and even, you know, even our secondary schools, some of those classes could use something like that. So it's a great program. PBIS seems to be working very well in all of our elementary schools. So I was impressed. So thank you, Mrs. Hildick, for allowing me to visit your school. I will be going to the legislative workshop, which is Friday. The Arizona School Board Association does a workshop where we update our upcoming legislative process, kind of who the players are this next session, and what's going to be a hot topic for education. So we'll be talking about that on Friday, and I'm excited to get that going. And then I was told that our gifted program, the elementary gifted program, is going to be doing an invention convention on November 21st at 1 o'clock at Pima Butte. So if you have a chance, that's an opportunity. These kids have invented some different things, and so that's a great, I know you've got the luncheon the same day, but it's a great opportunity to come see what some of our kiddos have done. So I plan on being to that also. And other than that, hopefully I'll have time to sleep in between all of that stuff. So it's just nice to be here.
Great. Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. Vice President Owens, did you have a report?
All right. I think the only thing that I've got is I was able to attend the Veterans Breakfast, and having not attended that before, I wasn't quite sure what to expect. But our culinary students and our junior ROTC students did a fantastic job with that. That was a very, very touching event, breakfast. And I got a chance to talk with some community members, and so it was. I thought that it was very, very well done. And I just wanted to give a shout out to MHS sophomore swimmer Connor Schrader, who placed 9th in the state in the 100 backstroke in Division II. I'm excited to see what he does going forward, and not bad for a second-year team. And that's all I've got.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Owens. I just have a couple things, and we'll get on to the good stuff. I'm glad to be back. I want to thank my fellow board members and especially Vice President Owens for picking up the slack while I was gone, so thank you very much. I was able to attend a couple flag football games this week for our middle schools, and today was the big rivalry game, Maricopa Wells versus Desert Winds, and Wells won in the end. It was a great game, and the pom line, or the cheer team for Maricopa Wells, did a great halftime dance show. It was very, very impressive. So kudos to all of the kids and the playing football and dancing. It was great to watch. So, and with that, we will move on to... Oh, and I also want to recognize that Vice Mayor Henry Wade is in the audience. Thank you for joining us. Yes. Now we will move on to item 5, our recognition. So, Board, we will head down there and
Exit stage left.
Yes, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Ultra Star Multitainment Centers and Freddy's Steak Burgers. Both organizations provided in-kind donations to support tonight's event, and we appreciate their partnership so we could recognize this many deserving individuals.
get the commercial.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Tonight, the Maricopa Unified School District is excited to honor community leaders who partner with us to make our schools a great place to teach and learn. Principals select one volunteer or community partner each month who's contributed time and support that makes a difference in the lives of our students. And now I'd like to honor our November Spotlight Community Leaders of the Month, President Knorr.
Thank you, Michelle. Congratulations to these community leaders. As I call your name, please come forward and shake the hands of the governing board and Dr. Lopman. Then make your way to room 123 for a group picture. And now I present to you the November Spotlight Community Leaders of the Month. Congratulations to Jennifer McDonald, a parent volunteer from Butterfield Elementary. Right here. She didn't make it. She's probably volunteering, like Dr. Lipman said. Anna Schickenzuber. Did I do it? Schickenzuber? Schickenzuber? Schickenzuber. And she's a PTO member from Maricopa Elementary School. Next, we have Shauna Baca. And Shauna is a parent volunteer from Pima Butte Elementary School. And I thought she worked there. She's there so often. So. Next, we have Trisha Johnson. And Trisha is a volunteer from Saddleback Elementary School. Next, we have Megan Carter. She doesn't seem to be here. She's our business partner from Santa Cruz Elementary School. Next, we have Corey Adams, the PTO president from Santa Rosa Elementary School, also not present. And Mike Pease. And Mike is a volunteer from Desert Wind Middle School. Next, we have John and May Donahue. And you will know them as the Kids Day organizers from Maricopa Wells Middle School. And Kids Day is a great event. And finally, not present as well, we have Elizabeth Whitman, who's a parent volunteer and substitute from Maricopa High. Oh, she was in her seat. There she is. Great. Thank you, Elizabeth. Congratulations again to these outstanding Spotlight community leaders. Michelle?
We are also proud of our dedicated and committed staff, and tonight we're honored to recognize some of the most outstanding employees as Spotlight Employees of the Month. One employee from every school is selected each month by the school principal, and one from a department leader at the district office. These staff members are phenomenal individuals who give from their hearts, go above and beyond expectations to meet the needs of our kids and support the school and the district. And now we'd like to honor our November Spotlight Employees of the Month. President Knorr.
Thank you again, Michelle. Congratulations to these outstanding employees. As I call your name, please come forward and shake the hands of the governing board and Dr. Lotman. And after you receive your certificate, also make it your way back to room 123 for the group photo. Congratulations to Cindy Welch. And Miss Welch is a second grade teacher from Butterfield Elementary School. Next, we have Nancy Gugisberg. Gugisberg, I got it. And Miss Gugisberg is a first grade teacher from Maricopa Elementary School. Next, we have Tabry Hicks. And Miss Hicks is a first grade teacher from Pima Butte Elementary School. Next, we have Sarah Rice, who doesn't seem to be here, but Sarah is a paraprofessional from Saddleback Elementary School. And Stephanie Arturit. And Stephanie is a third grade teacher from Santa Cruz Elementary School. Next, we have Edith Martinez. And Edith is the administrative assistant from Santa Rosa Elementary School. Probably one of the hardest jobs in a school. Next, we have Misty McKenzie. There she is. And Misty is the bookstore and library assistant from Desert Wind Middle School. Next, we have Jana Everett. And she is the administrative assistant from Maricopa Wells Middle School. Next, we have Dina Payne. Or Deanna. Dina, I had it right the first time. And Dina is a counselor from Maricopa High School. And finally, we have Judy Valdez. Substitute specialist and district receptionist from Human Resources. Congratulations again to these outstanding Spotlight employees.
And finally, we're thrilled to honor our Spotlight Students of the Month. School principals select these remarkable students based on their outstanding commitment to their education, their school, and their community. These students set the bar high and are recognized for their efforts in academic achievement, demonstrating great character, helping others, and being great ambassadors for their schools. And now, I'd like to honor our November Spotlight Students of the Month, President Knorr.
Thank you, Michelle. Congratulations to these outstanding students. As I call your name, we're going to go through the same protocol. Shake Dr. Lotman and the board members' hands, and then make your way back to room 123 for a group photo. Parents, you may meet your children in room 123 after the recognition. And now I present to you the November Spotlight Students of the Month. Congratulations to Abraham Hoops. He is a fourth grade student from Butterfield Elementary School. Next, we have Max Garena. Garena? Garena? All right, Max. and he is a 5th grade student from Maricopa Elementary School. Next, we have Kendall Rowie? Kendall Rowie. She is a 3rd grade student from Pima Butte Elementary School. Next, we have Tanya Flores. And she is a 1st grade student from Saddleback Elementary School. Next, we have Lainaya Noriega Seedig. And she's a 3rd grade student from Santa Cruz Elementary School. Next up, we have Taven Maybray, a 4th grade student from Santa Rosa Elementary School. Next, we have Elizabeth Coles. And she is in the 8th grade at Desert Wind Middle School. Next, we have Ashley Hulgan. And she's in the 7th grade at Maricopa Wells Middle School. And not present, but our last award is Annie, unless she's in the audience somewhere, Annie Kanjana. Oh, there she is. There she is. And she is a senior at MHS. Congratulations again to these Spotlight students. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate everyone who came to recognize our wonderful students and staff and community leaders. We will now move on to...
You might want to take a 30-second
give a minute
break.
We'll give a minute. You guys don't want to stay for all of our fun and exciting agenda
For
items.
those that want to stay, there's plenty of seats
Yes.
right up front here. Come on, move on.
There you go, Councilman. Nothing like calling you out, right?
He's my favorite. And I found out it was but it was, really? It was Pinellas Central.
Oh, no, so I've got more to do next week.
He prepared for the reading. Yeah, they walk around. So it doesn't disrupt.
Okay, now that our crowd has dwindled substantially, we will move on. Since we don't have any information items, we will move on to item 7, work study. A, school letter grades, and Miss Krista Roden, I believe, is going to present that for us.
Like Kristen, you've changed.
Oh, it's not Krista.
It's me.
It's you.
Yes.
We're glad to have you.
Well, thank you. Good evening, President Knorr, board members, and Dr. Lopman. I am Dennis Cook, the Director of Assessment and Technology, and tonight I am going to present to you the 2018-19 State Letter Grade presentation. As you know, our strategic plan guides our progress and presentations. Tonight's topic falls under our strategic goal number 2. Every student has access to and equity in excellent services, resources, and programs. Strategy G, implement data-driven instruction, decision-making, and continuous improvement. Last fall, the Strategic Planning Committee met, and these were the metrics our groups identified to move us closer to our goal. MUSD is a highly performing district, an increase overall rating to a B or higher. Categories for the state letter grades include, in the top left there's the K-8 model, which has 4 categories, as well as bonus points for ESS and Ames. And the bottom right is the 9-12 model. This has 5 categories, as well as bonus points for ESS and Ames. The 9-12 model differs just a little bit from the K-8 model, as they include components such as the college and career readiness and the graduation rate. In the elementary, they focus more on just the AZ merit scores of student proficiency and growth. The MUSD points and letter grades for the past 3 years, and at the bottom of the chart is the state-approved model for our letter grade cut scores. As you see, our elementaries all received Bs or an A, and our secondaries are all at the C level. Listed is a comparison of Pinal County schools as well as 3 neighboring schools in Maricopa County. These are a comparison to our schools. Principals shared some highlights of their letter grade. I'm going to share a few of these of just their reflections. At Butterfield, we saw more than 10 points of growth in ELA proficiency from 18-19 in 3rd and 5th grade. Pima Butte is ranked 20th out of more than 1,300 K-8 schools throughout Arizona based on total points earned. Saddleback, students increased their proficiency by at least 10% in ELA for 3rd and 5th grade. Desert Wind, 6th grade ELA increased passing by 6.32%. And at the high school, they increased 5 points in the category of college and career readiness.
And I just want to point out, if the board has a question during the presentation, I'm sure.
He's almost done with it.
Yeah, I am just about done.
He's
Thank you.
clearly almost done with it.
Yes. And here we go. At this point, do you have any questions for me?
Mr. Cook, could you bring back the slide that had the points? And I want to see both that and then the one that before the comparison of schools. But I just wanted to take a look at this. I want to thank you for adding this because I know it wasn't on the original presentation and I had asked for it because I wanted to see, when we're looking at some of these points, the smallest amount of points can make a big difference.
Yes.
Yeah, like 1 or 2 points.
Right. And I look at MHS, for instance, and even though they're still a C, they've significantly increased every year for the last 3 years. They've been making progress, and that's always good to see. And the same with Maricopa Wells, and although we saw a little dip in Desert Wind. But I just wanted to see those scores.
That's it?
Yep, and then can you go to the next one? Yeah. I know that we had leading edge on there, but we didn't put any of the other charters on there?
Some of the charters, such as Sequoia Pathway, they group their schools into
Overall.
Overall,
Across
correct.
the state.
So
I thought they couldn't. I thought it had to be by school.
They're charters, they can do whatever they want.
So,
Sorry.
Okay.
Your mic is on, Tori.
Okay, no hiding that.
Same with Legacy. I assume Legacy is the same way?
I didn't put Legacy on this one.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Any other questions?
No, I just wanted to see that. Thank you.
Mr. Owens, do you have any questions? No?
No, I'm good.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation, really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
We will now move on to item 7B, the technology report, which will be Mrs. Krista Roden
And
and Dennis Cook and Miss Jackie Hahn.
Yes.
Okay, great.
All right. Good evening, President Knorr. Welcome back. Board members, Dr. Liltman, thank you. Tonight I get the pleasure of updating you with where we are on our strategic plan. All right, if you remember a couple weeks ago, Mr. Harmon presented where we were with our override and how we have supported technology with the override funds from 2017. In 2017-2018, we purchased 598 Lenovo devices for our students at approximately $315,000. I believe the override stated that we would spend $500,000 on student technology. Not only along with the purchase of these Lenovo computers, we were able to add staffing to the technology department to help deploy all of the computers and the new devices. In 2018-2019, you'll see that the number of computers went down. These were a different model of computers that were touchscreen, so we purchased those for our younger students. Again, the cost of the technology was $156,321. Again, adding the staff back in there, we met the requirements of the $500,000. This year, if you look at 2019-20, we purchased staff devices with part of the override money. And it's very important that we were able to provide those services or those computers for our staff, because as we embed the technology into our students, the teachers have to have the capability and the capacity to run programs that our students are able to run on their devices. So it was very important that we linked that teacher component to our student services. You'll notice at the bottom of this slide that it says $89,000. That is of year to date. We are in the process of working out some additional purchases for computers this year, and we're kind of in a little bit of a hold to see if we get some other grant money. If other grant services come through, we will continue to purchase other technology. With the new computers that we bought, we could be looking at some new overhead Bluetooth systems. So we're kind of prioritizing right now based on other findings and grant opportunities that could be happening in the next couple of weeks. As we go, if you think back, our strategic plan began in the summer or spring, fall of 2018, where we established several goals for the district. Goal 2 is that every student will have access and equity in excellent services and resource and programs. Strategy F is to implement a district-wide strategic plan, which it's been a very interesting group of people to work with. We actually have another meeting tomorrow, which we will be updating our strategic plan and aligning it back to our districts. You'll notice over here that our number one goal, obviously, is to be one-to-one with our students, providing technology for all children in grades K through 12, not just 2 through 12. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Miss Jackie Hahn, and she's going to share with you a little bit about the implementation and the success that we have had with our teacher computers and how they're linking to our student devices.
Good evening, Governing Board, Dr. Lopman, members of the community. On behalf of all of the teachers at MUSD, thank you for continuing to invest in us. I've been asked this evening to share my experience with the teacher laptop rollout and the effect it's had on teaching. I'd like to start off by acknowledging the IT department. They have managed this process very efficiently. Their communications were clear and frequent. They set clear expectations of the equipment and the timing of the rollout. The training for the day of deployment went smooth, and the installation that followed was pretty much painless. The one thing that caused a bit of concern that day was this optional insurance, but that too was addressed quickly and satisfactorily. Most teachers are using the devices currently as a replacement desktop. They've plugged in the faster machines, and they get all the technology gains of the sleeker, faster units. Some teachers have started to disconnect and bring the new laptops to meetings and to the teacher workrooms for collaboration, and some are even taking them home. But regardless of where they are being used, they are having a positive impact on our ability to teach. These machines are faster. They are more reliable. We no longer have to wait 30 minutes in the morning for the computer to boot up. Yes, it really was. We can also access the district curriculum more efficiently. And with the integration with Google Drive, we have access to more resources across the district. So again, thank you for helping to make teaching even the slightest bit easier for us. And now I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Pop.
Hi again. I want to start by thanking the tech department again. Their hard work and dedication to make this a reality. It would not have worked if not for their hard work. So I just want to thank them again. Our plan moving forward through our strategic plan was to make as close as we could to a one-to-one environment, and we're getting close to there. So what our plan is to have a K-1 classroom tech center where there are 5 computers in each classroom, and in 2nd grade where there's a cart shared between 2 classes. 3rd through 12th grade, our plan would be to be one-to-one with all devices. In July of 2019, these were the number of devices that were on each campus. As we're looking forward to December, if a purchase is approved to buy the new computers for students, these are the numbers that we would currently then have at all the campuses. Going forward, to be a true one-to-one on that little bit of a modified system, that's how many more devices we would still need. We are still looking at trying to go to some sort of a pilot system where some teachers can volunteer into going one-to-one, as well as going with those schools that are a one-to-one to see how that works and then go from implementation. So our timeline for this, tonight is our work study. Hopefully then on December 12th we can purchase computers. By the end of December we would receive the orders, and with the large number of computers that we would get, it would take the tech department January and February to wire the carts and prepare computers at their sites. We're also looking at trying to be responsible with the carts, so we're going to bring back some carts to unwire them and put new devices in them instead of buying more. So that's where the timeline extends a little bit, because that's a little extra work on the tech department. Then in March, we would hope to begin some sort of a pilot system with our middle schools, with those teachers that would volunteer, with those that have enough. Then in May 2020, we would inventory and look at where all the carts are and reallocate if necessary. Do these schools have too many? Does this classroom have too many? And in July 2020, we would hope that we could have a one-to-one in place for all the schools that would like and the teachers that would like to try that. And then we would ask for the ongoing support to maintain our ratio of one-to-one. So at this time, do you have any questions?
Any questions?
I have a question. So, Dennis, I know, and I know you, I think you told us about this a few months ago, but in my talking to other districts, you know, one-to-one sounds great. It's the new thing. Everybody gets, you know, one-to-one learning. But the problems they're running into is they don't, yes, they've all got their own computers, but once they all get on, they don't have the bandwidth in order to actually function. So have we addressed that, and how is that going to, because we can all have our own device, but, you know, like at my house, the boys download games, there's no bandwidth, which means it takes me all day to look at my emails. So how are we addressing that?
Yeah, thank you. That's a very good question. So we currently are using microwave links from the district to all the sites. We have a project going on currently that we're going to have dedicated fiber lines to each school. Currently, there are 4 schools done. We have Butterfield, Saddleback, Desert Wind, and Santa Cruz. Those schools are done. We are waiting for the permit to be signed through ADOT. Once that's signed, the other schools will have the dedicated fiber lines from the district office. We also, through E-rate, have purchased 100 access points for the high school to help with them, and then we'll reallocate some of those access points to other schools. We have also purchased access points for Maricopa Wells through that grant as well. So then we're going to look at taking out those access points from those schools. Where can we help fill in the points? So we would have access point coverage really well at all the other schools. Then an E-rate project that we would like to be ongoing is fill in those holes and run new fiber in the schools themselves, as some of that has been original, and those fiber lines don't last forever. So we are constantly looking forward, trying to be more proactive than reactive. and it's taken some time, but I feel like we've made some really good strides. The Pinal County Consortium is looking at bringing a dedicated fiber to the district office as well. And once we have that, we can have speeds up to 10 gigs where we're at 1 now. So that would greatly help all the schools. So the fiber going direct to the schools, the access points, fiber coming in, that right there would really help with our connections.
So do we know when the Pinal County office is going to, is there a date when that's going to be delivered, or no? I shouldn't ask that.
Well, so
I mean,
when you're running fiber, it's not as easy as it sounds.
Right.
They've given us a few dates already.
Okay.
And I
Stuff
can't really
happens.
honestly say when
Okay.
it's going to be. Their hope was by our winter break. I don't foresee that happening.
Okay.
So I'm looking more at the end of this school year is what I hope. But again, I can't say for sure as running
fair.
fiber from where they're going to here is a lot.
That's fair. No, I appreciate that. And then when is our next E-rate going to be redone?
Another good question. So we're getting ready to go out right now for our
Okay.
current E-rate. So that's why we're looking at all of our schools currently and what we have in
Okay.
place and what we need, as there's an allocation per
Right.
site. So, we have to be careful as to if we see something further down, do we want to spend it now or let it roll?
Okay.
So we're being very proactive and looking down the road.
Kind of budgeting, here's what we need, so you can
Correct.
apply for that for E-rate.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's what I wanted to know.
Just have one question. With the number of, what did you call them? The access points.
Yes.
Is that going to draw too much from the connectivity? Because I know at the high school, they got to be all over the place.
That's a very good question. So we're being very strategic as where we place them. When you walk into a high school, it's different than an elementary. Every student has their phone on. Everything's being connected. So we are buying what's called an MR42, which connects a more amount of devices in the area. But we're being very strategic as to where we place them so that, the next door room's not pulling in. And so we're trying to be very strategic so that we have the best coverage.
Well, because I know that there's a lot of logistics to the high school to
Yes.
get them to all the classrooms, including Ram Academy. And I know working in the concession stand, there's plenty of times where my phone had to be used as a hotspot so we could run the concession registers.
So through our E-rate that we purchased for the high school, it also includes them running the new cables for each one as well.
Okay.
So that will help us. So we have new cabling as well for each access point.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's just check. Mr. Owens, do you have any questions about the technology presentation?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. Great, well, if there aren't any other questions, I just want to thank you for that great presentation. Technology is a moving target constantly, so we really appreciate all you're doing to keep up with the times and to make sure students are connected and have the technological resources they need. So thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Roden. We will now move on to item 7C, social and emotional learning. Mrs. Roden, you're up again.
I am. Does it ever feel like there's always something that you're supposed to be doing? Are there places that you should be going and lots of things to do? And does everyone seem to be in a hurry? Well, at this moment, there's nothing else that you have to do except breathe. That's it. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. With that, it is my pleasure to share with you what we are doing for social emotional learning at Maricopa Unified School District. Again, my name is Krista Roden. I am the Director of Teaching and Learning.
Krista, can you turn the mic so it's
Yes,
more-
I can.
That's better.
But,
Thank you.
okay, again, our journey started in the fall of 2018, where we established goals for the district. Again, goal 2 is that every student has access and equity and excellent educational services, resources, and programs. Strategy I is to implement programs to serve our social and emotional needs of all students. And the ultimate is to have a one-on-one counselor at every school to provide mental health support. What is social emotional learning? Social emotional learning, or SEL, is the process in which children and adults understand how to manage their emotions, how to achieve and set positive goals, how to show empathy towards others, and how to establish and maintain positive relationships. How do we teach social emotional learning? We foster mindfulness. We stop. We listen, and we pay attention. We clarify that thoughts lead to ideas and that actions have consequences. We model persistence and determination. And we know that how we behave in class affects others, and how others behave in class affect us. We listen with empathy, and we smile. And it emphasizes gratitude because it's a universal language. What does research indicate? Research shows that SEL improves achievement by an average of 11 percentile points. It also increases pro-social behaviors such as kindness, sharing, and empathy towards others, and reduces stress among students. How does MUSD support emotional learning? For the last 3 years, we've had the ability to implement positive behavior intervention systems at all of our schools. So all tiers, 1, 2, and 3, are being implemented right now with PBIS. We were also fortunate enough to add transportation over the last summer to our model to help inform our students of appropriate ways to behave. As part of our model for teachers, or our story that we would like to tell, we are going to, all teachers and staff will be going through a 2-year process on trauma-informed practices. And level 2, as we've started this year with our first group of teachers, is on the de-escalation strategies that help support SEL in the classroom as well as for teachers. We are partnering with Kagan on higher level thinking and brain-based thinking. We are part of the Kagan World Tour, and we also partner with Kagan during the summer, where we invite them in for 5 days of a cooperative learning where it teaches teachers how to engage students at a different level. Again, continuing to support social emotional learning. Our counseling team is absolutely amazing. Last summer they had the opportunity to attend the Pinal County training, where counselors and health staff got together and talked about SEL and suicide prevention and other mental health issues. We are also part of, our goal is to provide prevention in the classroom, so our counselors are getting in and doing as much in service in the classroom with students directly as possible. We are also looking at some additional I'm still on technology, some supplemental resources in SEL to provide for our teachers on how to use that curriculum. We also have a partnership with Social Centrics this year, so we're going to continue to build on our equity within our classes and our students and our staff. We are going after absolutely every grant that comes across our desk. If you send it, we will research, we will look at it, and we will find grants. This isn't going away. The social emotional needs of all students are going to be embedded in everything that you do, from your homeless conference to your superintendent's conferences to your board conferences. We've got to address this issue and know that it needs to be embedded in everything that we do every day. It was exciting to hear you, Ms. Anderson, talk about the calming corners. I was going to bring one in and let you play with it, but I didn't. There is one always available if you ever need to de-escalate yourself.
If I need to calm down.
You do. You will see them in all classrooms. It's very powerful to go in and see, especially when you see a child get up and de-escalate themselves by going in and using a windmill or a glitter bottle or a stress toy. So that's really powerful. We were actually at Desert Wind, wherever you are, last week, and we saw a calming corner in one of the middle school classrooms, so it's pretty cool. We have been very fortunate to have partnerships without the community. We are working with Maricopa PD, and they help support the Calming Corners. Maricopa Education Foundation also supported Calming Corners. Title IV helps us, and it provides a mental health counselor for the district that is stationed at the high school just because of the needs there. Again, very fortunate to have that opportunity to have Title IV funds. That is also where the curriculum support material will come from if that is approved. What we have learned so far is in speaking with children and talking with parents and students and teachers at the end of the year when we did our COI surveys, kids were really identifying that they don't know how to regulate their own emotions or how to de-escalate themselves or even how to separate their own behaviors. So that's something that they came up with on their own. And they also talked about social media and what is appropriate FaceTime. Huge. For kids to identify that, that's huge. Staff, of course, wanted more support in social media in social emotional learning and how to embed those strategies into their classroom and daily practices. And parents, we're looking at getting some really good feedback as we start to survey our parents on our Parent University and our forums that we're going to be offering them. Right now, they're asking for graduation. How do they get their child to graduate? And they also brought up some adolescent culture with vaping, suicide ideation, and they have lots of specific titles or categories or topics, that they would like to talk about. So, lots of great information. I just want you to know I've been waiting for a long time to come up here and read to you. And with that, you have a very special copy of your own book, Breathe Like a Bear. I highly encourage you to read through it. There are apps that go with this that you can put on your phone. Your counseling teams at your school sites will be your biggest advocate. Stop in, talk to them. They will hook you up with every resource that you need. With that, do you have any questions?
Any questions?
What is COI? What's the acronym? What does that stand for? I know you referred to it a couple times.
COI. Acronym for COI? It's Social Emotional Behavioral through Arizona Department of Education. I will email you that.
But it's KOI,
It's
right?
KOI.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And I apologize. I meant to email that you later
that's okay.
earlier. And then I assume that it seems like a very fluid plan, that if we realize something's not quite kosher and it's not quite working, we can adjust that. That's what it seemed like.
The strategic plan from the counselors is one of the most in-depth plan, but it is also the one that changes the most because they are the ones that analyze absolutely everything. And what doesn't work, we modify and change immediately. And you have ladies and gentlemen that are right there because they're looking at those needs firsthand.
Cool. Okay. And I will, again, the Calming Corners, I think, I want to see it in every classroom across our district. I think it's just amazing. They set their little timer for 5 minutes and they go back to their seat.
Self-regulation.
Yeah, it's awesome. So, because I used to do that in my class, so it's great to see that it's coming around. So, and I know that trauma-informed care is being rolled out throughout the state, and actually, the National School Board Association has been on board with trying to get schools to put that in. So, I really see us as ahead of the curve.
Excellent.
So, yeah,
Excellent.
it's
All right.
awesome.
Thank
you.
You
I'm
bet.
excited.
Krista, hang on.
Yeah, I am. I keep going.
Sorry, I got a couple questions. So right now, do we have a counselor at each school?
We do have a counselor that is assigned to each school. Our elementary counselors split half-time and half-time. They're also pulled when needed. If we need somebody at a school that doesn't have one from the day, we have flexibility where we move them.
So one of our goals is to have a counselor at each school.
Correct.
And when we talk about counselors, are we talking about emotional counselors? Or are we talking about counselors like at the high school that are almost like guidance counselors and career counselors?
We're talking more on the social emotional level, a counselor or a social worker.
Mental health.
Okay.
Yes.
And I know we're fortunate to have a counselor now at the high school, but one counselor for that many students. What's the goal for that?
The research shows that I believe it's 1 to 350. Our goal is to add 1 for the next year and to grow that.
Okay.
COI.
Oh, thank you.
It's knowledge, outcomes, and impact.
Okay,
COI.
thank you.
Thank you.
All
I
right.
should know that. It's
That's
been like
okay.
5 years.
I really appreciate everything that you've done and all the training that they've gone through. I know that having a middle schooler last year going to the nurse's office, and before we had the calming corners, she would give them little frozen ice cubes, and they would sit there and just hold them in their hands, and the manipulative just calmed them down. And then having my daughter in the high school, senior year is very stressful for a lot of our students, and I think now in the society and where we're at right now is so different than when we were seniors graduating, and there's so much more emotional and just so much more to it. And I think we need to do whatever we can to really help and prepare them, because they think they know it all and they haven't got a clue.
This isn't going anywhere. We're just going to get more and more and better and better.
Are there a lot of grants out there for stuff like
I'm
this?
seeing more and more pop up, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, more and more.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Amber Anderson has said
Well, thank you
yes.
so very much.
Absolutely. Let me know if you need anything.
Thank you, Mrs. Roden. Yes. We will now move on to item 7D, Maricopa Unified School District Gifted Scope and Sequence. And I believe I see Mrs. Gretchen Brown coming forward. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, President Noor, Dr. Lopman, and governing board members. I'm Gretchen Brown, the Director of Multiple Projects, and I'm here presenting on our gifted program and scope and sequence. So, our gifted program and scope and sequence supports our goal, number 2, every student has access to and equity and excellent services, resources, and programs, and strategy H, provide specialized programming for identified populations. In the fall of 2018, the Strategic Planning Committee met and identified metrics that would move us closer to our goal. And our gifted program aligns with academic offerings individualized for maximum student success. So what is Cycle 5 monitoring? This is the ADE Cycle 5 monitoring. The Arizona Department of Education Cycle 5 monitoring monitors a district's gifted education program. This happens every 6 years. The tool that ADE uses to monitor a district's gifted program is the Scope and Sequence document. ADE provides the Scope and Sequence template, which addresses 8 different components that include program design, curriculum and instruction, identification, social and emotional development, professional development, parent and community involvement, program assessment, and budgeting. So on the far left side of the document, ADE provides the questions on how a district meets certain criteria. The middle column includes possible indicators to meet that criteria, and the far right column has the district's description on how the criteria is met. This scope and sequence document captures the last 6 years of our gifted program and the changes and additions that have occurred since 2014. So what have we accomplished in 6 years? I'll go through each component now and highlight changes and additions since the 2014 scope and sequence. So our gifted numbers and student counts. This is a reflection of our gifted counts from 6 years ago, school year 2013, 2014, to our school year 2018, 2019. So the first numbers are the enrollment of gifted students in our program, which 2013 and 14 we had 64 students, and we currently have 231. The next states students tested, so the number of students tested in 2013 and 14 was 26, and in 2018 and 19 the number of students tested was 205. The number of identified students back in 2013-14 was 14 students, and the number of identified students in 2018-19 was 51. We'll move on to the components. Component 1, program design. The additions and changes that have occurred over the last 6 years are, we now have a gifted teacher and pull-out services at the elementary level. We have a blended learning program at both of our middle schools. We recently added AP Capstone and increased our advanced placement offerings. We also have additional honors offerings. We have added dual enrollment courses over the past 6 years, and we have a gifted advisory class at each grade level at the high school. Component 2, curriculum and instruction. The changes and additions include, again, additional offerings of honors, AP, dual enrollment, and CTE courses, the adoption of the new math curriculum, Pearson Envisions, the adoption of the new ELA curriculum, McGraw-Hill, which is Study Sync at the secondary and Wonders at the elementary level. Both our math and ELA curriculum have a built-in differentiated component for gifted learners. And we now have thinking maps and have increased our technology integration. All right, moving to component 3, identification. The changes and additions that have occurred over the past 6 years are, we now identify and service students qualifying at the 95th percentile. We have updated our cognitive abilities test to the COGAT Online Form 7. The state adopted AZ Merit, which is now called AZM2. And we now use School City instead of Galileo for our benchmark testing and student growth goals. The changes and additions to the social and emotional development component include the addition of school counselors at all school sites, a district mental health counselor. We have brought in professional development for teachers and staff on trauma-informed practices. We have begun equity training with the Social Centric Institute, presented by Calvin Terrell. We have implemented or are in the process of implementing positive behavior interventions and supports at all Maricopa schools. Component 5, which is professional development. Over the past 6 years, professional development offerings have included Kagan Higher Level Thinking, Brain-Friendly Teaching, Kagan's Multiple Intelligences, AP Capstone Training, Project-Based Learning, our Kagan Emotional Friendly Teaching. Teachers have attended the Arizona Association for Gifted and Talented Summer Institute. Teachers have also attended the National Association for Gifted Children's Annual Conference and the AAGT Annual Conference. And we now have a gifted endorsed teacher. Component 6, parent and community involvement. As we were growing our gifted program and our gifted student population over the past 6 years, we have involved parents and the community through newsletters, family nights, advisory meetings, parent-teacher conferences, school site councils, parent and student surveys, and ongoing feedback. Right. The last two components of the gifted scope and sequence are program assessment and budgeting. We have been able to continuously evaluate our program by student placement in AP, dual enrollment, and honors classes, by student proficiency scores on AZ Merit and benchmark testing, the number of referrals for identification, program enrollment numbers, student attendance in the program, and student growth goals. Last component, component 4, I think it's component 8, yes, budgeting. Our gifted teacher is funded through maintenance and operations. Other funds that support the gifted program include the Gifted Education Grant, Title I, Title II, and Title IV. With these additional funding sources, they have provided computers, technology, professional development, supplies, project-based learning, STEM activities, and summer school options. That concludes the components. What questions do you have?
I got a few. Out of the numbers that you gave us on the gifted students that we currently have, it was 231 for this year. Do we have a breakdown on how many are elementary, middle school, and high school?
Yes. The high school, you have 97, middle school is 57, and elementary is 77.
Okay. And you talked about the teachers attending the conferences, which is awesome. And I know that obviously Mrs. Redfern attends those because she's our gifted pullout teacher. But how do you identify the other teachers that are going to those conferences?
So we look at where our gifted student numbers are clustered and send those invitations out to those teachers that have that population there. We've also reached out to our high school advisory teachers to attend those conferences and trainings as well.
And you said there's a gifted advisory class?
There's a 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade gifted advisory class.
So that's like their homeroom or whatever?
It's their advisory period, but it's specific to gifted and the gifted students.
So is
the only students in there.
So is it one gifted advisory teacher at the high school?
There's 4.
There's 4?
A 9th, yes.
Okay.
9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th.
So there's one at each grade level?
Yes.
Okay. And then we talked about some of the things that you've been doing, and I know in the past, because my son was gifted, and so I know at the high school I got the letters and I got the invitations. Are we doing separate parent nights for gifted high school students, like just having like a high school gifted, or are we just doing it all, it's just all one and everybody comes, or do we do anything specific to the high school?
So throughout the last 6 years, they have looked different. They had started off as district-wide family nights, and then we kind of broke it down to high school was doing their own family nights, and elementary was doing their own family nights. Currently, right now, elementary is still doing family nights, but we have not held one at the high school level this year.
We did last year?
In 2018.
Okay. Are we planning on, I mean, our scope and sequence looks amazing, and I know you worked really, really hard on it. I really appreciate that. And I know you had a lot of input from other teachers, and so kudos to that, because like I said, I had my son who was gifted in the elementary, and that gifted program that we had has fluctuated throughout the years, and he got lost in it because it was never consistent. So I totally appreciate this, and it looks great on paper. I just want to make sure, are we going to be able to implement it?
Yeah, thank you. So yes, the feedback has been to do family nights, to bring those back, and possibly bring back newsletters. There are newsletters going out, but again, it's more specific to the elementary. She talks about what she's doing within her classroom, what she's going to be doing next month, those kinds of things. So yes, definitely the feedback has to bring that back. And what that could look like might be in parent universities, might be during our Title I family nights, it might be during curriculum nights. So to bring that back in some capacity, whether it's just a family gifted night, or to embed it within other parent nights that we have.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Gretchen, is there a plan, or maybe this is more of a Dr. Lohman, and I don't need the answers tonight because I know this is an ongoing thing that, again, is fluid, but is there a plan to have a gifted teacher like Zoe at each elementary school? I know at high school you said you've got one at each grade level, but it's pretty hard for Mrs. Redfern to get to all the schools. Is there a plan, or can we look at a plan? I know it depends on money, but to have one at each school, is there a thought to that at a later date? And then I noticed on your implementation you had high school honors classes. I mean, not high school, middle school honors classes, and middle school CTE classes, possibly as both long-term, as both goals down the road. I would love to see honors classes at the middle school. I know that's pretty limited, but I think that's an area where we kind of have dropped the ball a little bit. And then there is a lot of talk for having CTE classes, which it's career technical education classes, at the middle schools. And where would that funding come from? Because I know the state only funds from 10th, 11th, and 12th. I mean, we're trying to get them to do 9th graders and possibly 8th graders. But if we want that plan as a district, which I think is phenomenal, how would we fund that? And these are future. I don't need the questions right. I don't need them answered right now. It's just for long-term thinking.
Well, I have them all written down right here.
So I can give you, if it's
Yes.
okay with you, Ms. Brown. Okay. In terms of CTE, moving down into the middle school grades, that's a state initiative. It's a state move that we're making in Arizona, so it hasn't fully operationalized
There's
yet.
no funding behind it.
Right, as part of the problem.
Right.
But
That's why I'm asking.
it is. But I think it's in the works, and everyone recognizes our need to prepare our workforce, and that we cannot wait until 9th grade or
Well, actually,
11th
10th grade.
Yeah,
10th
exactly.
grade.
So that's in the works as well. You know, when we look at the metrics that matter, that we generated together in August of 2018, which our teaching and learning department has pardon me, done a beautiful job of continuing to surface for us. Those are at our best implementation. So at our best implementation, absolutely, we would have a gifted teacher at every
Campus.
At every campus. Those are things that we aspire to, and then it's the logistics in between.
Right. So right now, we've just got Mrs. Redfern for 77 students.
And with students who are coming to
Right.
her.
Right, I know that, but it's still, it's hard when they come from other campuses and they go to her. It's just they miss out on a lot when they have to, it's their day to go to her class. They miss a whole day at their other campus. So to me, it would be so much more effective to have a teacher on each campus, or an advocate, a gifted advocate at each, that could advise their individual teachers. So I don't know, I'm just.
That's part of the beautiful vision that we hope to create. And if it's fiscally responsible for us to do that, then we would do it. And we want to make that a reality.
Okay.
Under both circumstances.
Okay. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the great presentation. I appreciate all the work you put into that.
Did Ben have any questions?
Ben, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I guess the only thing that I'm kind of curious is on the gifted counts page. So if we look under the 18-19, we've got 231 gifted students, 205 tested, and 51 students identified. Can you explain that to me? Because I'm not real familiar with this.
Yes. So gifted students, that's the gifted enrollment numbers during 2013, 2014. So there were 64 students enrolled and identified as gifted in 13, 14. And then in 2018, 19, there are 231 students enrolled and identified as gifted in our program with MUSD. The next one there, it says students tested. That's the number of students that took the cognitive abilities test to qualify for gifted. So back in 2013-14, 26 students tested for qualification. And in 18 and 19, 2005 students tested. The last line there is students identified. This is the number that actually qualified and were identified as gifted. In 2013-14, there were 14 students identified, and in the year 18-19, there were 51 identified.
Gotcha. So what's the difference between the top line and the bottom line? I guess that's the part that I'm not understanding.
The top line is total students in the program, and the bottom line is just the number of students that were identified that year.
Is that out of the number of students who were tested? So out of the 205 who tested?
Yes, 51 students.
Qualified
yes, thank you.
to be placed. Okay.
Correct.
So that once they're identified as gifted, they remain in the gifted program. They're not tested every year.
Correct.
When we first started this, though, we're doing the 95th percentile now. Before we were doing the 97th, correct?
Correct. We are doing the 97.
Yes, and Mrs. Catray, that's a good point. Thank you. I think that's great that we've expanded that to give more kids the opportunity.
It helps us reach our under-identified populations and our at-risk students.
Absolutely. It's a great move. So do you understand that more clearly, Ben?
So I just want to clarify. So the 51 students, is that 51 students this year that were identified as gifted that make up or that are part of that 231 total?
Correct.
Gotcha, okay. All right. That's what I needed. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Ben. You are listening well through the phone. Way to stay involved in the conversation. Thank you. If there are no more questions,
Thank you.
we will.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to item 8, our consent agenda minus H and I. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve without H&I.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Lisa?
Patty Cotray,
Aye.
Ben Owens,
Aye.
Tori Anderson,
Aye.
Anna Marie Noor,
Aye. By your vote of 4-0, you have approved the consent agenda without H and I. We will now consider item 8H as our first action item, which is approve intergovernmental agreement between MUSD and the City of Maricopa for school resource officers. And Mrs. Anderson, I believe you had a question?
Yeah, Dr. Lotman, and I apologize. I thought of this as I was reading it through it again today, so I'm sorry. And if you don't have the answers, that's fine. So was there any talk at doing anything at the middle schools, whether they come like in the mornings, you know, when kids are getting off the bus, or they do their paperwork or something on campus? Was that ever a part? Because this just covers the high school
It does
SRO.
it just covers the high school. That did not come up. There may be some times when we might loop in the high school, the officer who's located at the high school, but it hasn't ever been discussed as part of the rotation. No, it has not.
Okay, so can we just maybe for future figure out how we could be creative in offering maybe them an office that they could come in the mornings and do paperwork and at least be on campus while the kids are arriving? And then again, because that seems to be when a lot of behaviors happen, is when they're getting off the bus in the mornings, and then when they're getting on the bus to go home. So I don't know if there's some way we can...
Two additional ones?
Just even if it's just the community officers, you know, because I know Chief Stahl says they're in the neighborhood and we can call them when we need them.
Okay.
And I just don't know how effective that's been. So I just wonder if there's something we could do going, you know, in the future where maybe we say, hey, we've got this office, come do your paperwork in the morning, so at least there's an officer. They got to do their paperwork anyway. So maybe, Councilman, I don't know, maybe there's something, no pressure, just some agreement that they can at least have a presence, you know, for an hour in the morning and an hour at the end of the day for our middle schools. Just so, I don't know, I'm just trying to be creative, and I'm just throwing that out there. And I know I'm putting you on the spot, and I apologize, but I just wanted to ask if that was part of that discussion, but it wasn't.
It was not part of the
Okay.
discussion, no.
Okay. Future discussions. Okay. So that was
Any
8.
other questions on
Nothing on H.
So we would need them.
So I motion to approve item 8H, the consent, which is the agreement, intergovernmental agreement with the high school, with the MUSD and the City of Maricopa.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Lisa?
Patty Cotray,
Aye.
Ben Owens,
Aye.
Tori Anderson,
Aye.
Anna Marie Noor,
Aye. By your vote of 4-0, you have approved the intergovernmental agreement between MUSD and the City of Maricopa for school resource officers. We will now...
Officer.
What?
One.
Resource officer.
Uno.
Officer.
Uno.
For a school resource officer. Hopefully more in the future.
We'd like to have tres.
We did apply for another through that,
Right.
the
School safety
The school
grant.
safety money that was made available from the state, the 23 million that turned into 97 million
Need,
in
yeah.
requests. So we, like, 211 other school districts in the state applied for anything and everything that was available. Pardon me?
We can't talk about
Yeah, we
that.
just-
It's not on the agenda, and it
Oh,
doesn't have
well, I'm
anything to do with
just-
the IGA. Sorry.
But you're right.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
I'm just telling you, I'm trying to be creative
We're
and
trying to
find
get
other
from
ways to
officer
serve
to
SROs.
officers.
Exactly.
And we appreciate your creativity.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'll be quiet.
Item 8I, approve intergovernmental agreement between MUSD and the City of Maricopa for joint use of facilities.
And that was me. So, and again, this was as I'm reading H&I. These are kind of So does I help pay for H? That's kind of what it sounded like, that if there was money available through the cities and using our facilities,
Yes.
that was helped pay for our high school SRO.
Right, you see, it's to offset the cost of the
SRO.
placement of the SRO, yes.
Okay.
And that's what it's always, it was that way last year. In previous years, when we had more SROs, we did make a payment.
Right.
But we don't do that anymore. We're supposed to settle up at the end of the year.
Okay.
Okay. And you're comfortable with that agreement?
We have budgeted
Okay.
for it.
Great.
Okay.
It's-
But any
it
money
is
that's,
not-
but any money that's left over from the facilities use that they rent will go towards
Yeah.
the high school
Reduces
SRO.
the cost of
Okay.
the SRO, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted that clarification. So if there's no other discussion, motion to approve 8I, which is the other agreement between the City of Maricopa and the school.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Lisa, please call the roll.
Patty Cotray,
Aye.
Ben Owens,
Aye.
Tori Anderson,
I,
Anne Marie Noor,
Aye. By your vote of 4-0, you have approved the agreement between MUSD and the City of Maricopa for joint use of facilities. We will now move on to item 9A, personnel schedule. Mr. Beckett.
Thank you, President Noor. Pleasure to have you back. Governing board members, Dr. Lohman, you have the personnel schedule in front of you this evening. Just want to highlight, in our stipend extra duty schedule, we did have spelling bee sponsors for our elementary schools, and we did not have that built in for middle schools. So we have added that tonight. I'd like to add that to was that Mr. Owens clapping? We would like to add that to our stipend extra duty schedule and request your approval of that. And I'll take your questions at this point in time.
Are there any questions?
I don't have
Mr.
any
Beckett?
questions.
Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the personnel schedule as written.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Lisa?
Patty Cotray,
Aye.
Ben Owens,
Aye.
Tori Anderson,
Aye.
Anne Marie Noor.
Aye. By your vote of 4-0, you have approved the personnel schedule.
Thank
you, Mr. Beckett. Item 9B, discussion and possible approval of first reading of updated policy JKD, student suspension. Mr. Watson.
Before you, you have a copy of the revised policy that I shared with you last month when I presented on the work study for the alternative to long-term suspension program. This is language that I worked with the attorney on for a couple of months, and that is the most revised copy.
Great, thank you.
Questions?
Are there any questions?
There are questions.
Okay. Let's go.
So,
That I could have told you.
so the original, I'm looking at the original one, JKD. And all of the red that's crossed out, is that where the other 2 pages of policy came from?
Yes, all of the red moves to
Regulation.
regulation. Thank
Okay,
you.
okay. That's what I thought, but I just wanted to clarify. And you said the secondary principals had input on these other 2, JKD, EC, and ED.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
All right, that's all I wanted to know. So
Great
nice work.
questions. Ms.
No,
Cotray? Yes.
I'm actually good.
Oh, you're good?
Okay, then if there's no other discussion,
Let's ask
motion.
Ben real quick.
Oh.
Ben, do you have any
Oh.
questions about the policy change?
No, I do not.
Great, thank you.
All right, then if there's no other discussion, now I'll make a motion to approve the first reading of the policy JKD, EC, and R.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Lisa?
Patty Cotray,
Aye.
Ben Owens,
Aye.
Tori Anderson,
Aye.
Anne Marie Noor.
Aye. By your vote of 4-0, you have approved the first reading of updated policy JKD.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with no further business, we're on item 10. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Whoa, we're excited.
did that really good.
I know.
You take that.
I'll second that. No, I'll second.
Okay.
Okay. I have a motion by Patty, a second by Tori. Lisa?
Patty Cotray,
Aye.
Ben Owens,
Aye.
Tori Anderson,
Aye.
Anne Marie Noor.
Aye. By a vote of 4-0, it is 8:01 PM and we are adjourned.
Awesome.
Bye, Ben.
Even with all the
Bye,
additional
thank you.
questions.